We have Woj, Adrian Wojnarowski, one of the most legendary reporters not only in sports, but media history. We're going to ask him everything as he's going into the Basketball Hall of Fame as the Kurt Gowdy recipient. Woj, you are the main event. Really a pleasure.
Wow. Well, thank you, Andrew. Good to be here with you, and hope you've had a good summer.
Yeah, I have. We'll get to my sponsor in a moment, but first, I always like to start this way. Now, you grew up in Bristol, Connecticut, home of ESPN. What's shaping Adrian Wojnarowski growing up?
Yeah, I did grow up really just down the street from ESPN, and my earliest memories of ESPN were playing basketball at the Bristol Boys and Girls Club with Tom Mees, seeing Bob Lee at the gas station once with my dad. It wasn't big yet. You know, when I was a kid, it was just starting, and I probably watched it more than most because it was still just something that people were learning about in like 79, 80, 81, 82.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then in terms of you, there's incredible work ethic. We're going to get into all this, but that you have. People sometimes think with the insider game, it's sort of given instead of being built. These things are built and they take years and years. Where's the work ethic come from?
I think my family, my older sister, my dad. My dad worked. There were two big employers in Bristol eventually. ESPN and New Departure Hyatt, which was a ball bearing plant. And eventually that plant closed right before my dad retired from there. I think I got it from him. He was a blue collar guy. He worked more than one job often. And you were just always expected in my house. You were going to have a job. You were going to work. You're going to have to do stuff around there. And I was smart enough to know that I was not going to be able to work with my hands for a living. I would have been in a lot of trouble, and it pushed me toward college and eventually getting into the sports journalism field.
All right, we're going to get into the nitty gritty. I'm really interested when you left the Bergen Record to go to Yahoo Sports to become a basketball columnist, which in hindsight obviously seems like an easy decision. At the time was gutsy. We're going to get into all that. We're presented by WSC Sports. If you're a league, your team, your network, got to use WSC Sports Digital Asset Management. They got a highlight, the AI. They've been doing it for more than a decade. Then a couple weeks later, you need that highlight right there. Digital Asset Management. You can check it out at WSC-sports.com. Also, event September 24th. Jay Marine, Global Head of Video for Amazon Prime, will be joining us on Off the Record with me, Andrew Marchand, presented by WSC Sports. You can sign up in the show notes or the email. All right, Woj, now coming out of school, of course, Woj goes to St. Bonaventure. They love St. Bonaventure. We'll get into now. He's the GM there. We had Chris LeBlanc a couple weeks ago, Mike Vaccaro. There's something in the air in St. Bonaventure. We'll get there. You're coming out of St. Bonaventure. What's the goal? What are you thinking in terms of career?
I just wanted to be a sports writer. I wanted to be able to work in the industry, stay gainfully employed, be able to pay my bills. Cover college basketball was my initial thought. It was... I graduated in 91. I graduated from Bonaventure. I had a huge college hoop influence being at Bonaventure. I went to Waterbury, Connecticut, got a 30-hour-a-week job that turned into a full-time job. I had worked at the Hartford Courant through high school and college. And I always tell people there was a college writer at the Hartford Courant named George Smith who covered like the NAC, the North Atlantic Conference, and Yankee Conference football, and Division III baseball, regional tournaments in the spring. And if you had offered me a 40-year contract to take George Smith's job, I would have signed up and been thrilled by it. I didn't have massive expectations. I never imagined all that it would become. I hoped I could become a columnist at a newspaper eventually, but I can't tell you I came out and said, hey, the things that eventually happened, I can't say they were goals. I just never imagined all of it.
All right, we're going to get into that because I really want to get into, you become a columnist, you go to Yahoo. Also, when you get to ESPN, you said no to ESPN a lot of times before you said yes, and then the aftermath. There are a lot of some controversies with that. We'll get into all that. AndrewMarchand.com, AndrewMarchand.com to listen to the rest of the podcast. You end up going to Fresno, which seemed to me kind of the Kansas City Star as well. Obviously, all the New York places were feeder systems for some great writers. I don't know exactly why. I know Kansas City Star, they had a legendary editor, I believe. Fresno, I'm not exactly sure why, but You end up next in Fresno, is that correct?
It was, and I still say to this day, the biggest break I had in my career was going Waterbury